chosen one. Listen carefully. Heaven once stopped its breath when your name was spoken in eternity. The stars halted mid-glow. The rivers paused mid-current. And time itself bowed before divine command. You were not late. You were summoned. Every moment you called delay was heaven protecting alignment. It is written in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. That single line carries the pulse of creation. The same rhythm beats in you, even when life looked motionless. Heaven's clock was moving precise, patient, unstoppable. You remember that night you stared at the ceiling, asking why nothing moved, the unanswered prayers, the long silence. But silence, chosen one, is not rejection, it is preparation. Like a musician tuning strings before a concert, heaven was adjusting every detail of your future until the sound of your purpose would be flawless. There was once a chosen one who worked quietly in obscurity, while others celebrated their arrival. This one only heard echoes of delay. But when the moment came, doors that once refused to open swung wide on their own. That is how divine timing works. It needs no permission, no apology, no explanation. You, too, were hidden for a reason. The unseen years were not wasted. They were womb years. The waiting wrapped you in wisdom. The silence sealed you in strength. What you thought was being overlooked was actually God safeguarding your name until you could bear its weight. Picture it, your life as a lighthouse on a foggy cliff. For years, it looked like no one saw you. But the keeper was polishing the glass, trimming the wick, preparing the flame. Now the storm clears, and ships lost at sea finally find their way home by your light. That is what this moment is about. You were never delayed. You were refined for visibility. The Creator who paints galaxies does not rush brushstrokes. So why would he rush you? Each detour, each pause was part of divine choreography. The steps may have felt awkward, but the dance was holy. Time, for heaven, isn't linear, it's layered. While you waited, heaven was aligning threads, the right people, the right place, the right revelation. And now, those threads pull tight into a single moment called now. Do you feel that pull in your spirit? That sudden awareness that you are standing exactly where you're meant to be? That's heaven's confirmation. The enemy tried to whisper. You missed it. But he forgot you move by assignment, not by accident. When God says now, even the years that seemed lost are redeemed in a blink. Think of an arrow. It feels backward tension before flight. The more it's pulled, the farther it soars. That was your story. The backward pull of delay was just momentum gathering for the release that's happening right now. And this message, yes, this very moment, is part of that release. Heaven chose this intersection in time to reach you. Not a second too soon, not a breath too late. Let this truth sink in. You have not fallen behind. You have arrived in divine sequence. You are the proof that heaven's timing never falters. If this message speaks into your spirit, pause and breathe. Type 111 inches, the comments, as a prophetic act, your way of saying, I'm aligned with heaven's time. Like and share, so this same reminder reaches another chosen one who thinks they've missed their moment. and subscribe to stay connected to this unfolding revelation, because timing is everything. And this is yours. You didn't miss your moment. You are the moment. Heaven waited for you. Take this as your sign. Every pause you endured was a sacred countdown. Heaven never wastes waiting. It multiplies it. The years you thought were silent were really echoing beneath the surface, like roots growing deep before a tree breaks ground. You were never late, only hidden until the light was right. Now the divine calendar has turned in your favor. You stand at the intersection of destiny and obedience. All that once felt lost is being restored, reordered, and released. The sound you hear in your spirit isn't noise, it's the gates of purpose opening wide. Step forward. Heaven is already ahead of you. The weight you carried is becoming wind beneath your wings. What was heavy yesterday is holy today. You're walking into rooms that once rejected you. And this time, the atmosphere will shift because you have changed. You carry timing's authority now. So lift your head, chosen one. Smile at the clock. It was never your enemy. Every tick, every tear, every turn was proof of precision. Heaven didn't delay you. Heaven delivered you right on time. You know that ache of waiting the long, echoing silence when promises seem to fade into the background noise of life. You've stared at the ceiling in the dark, wondering if heaven heard you at all. You've watched others step into seasons that looked like the one you prayed for, while your own ground stayed dry and silent. But what if that silence was sacred ground? What if the wound of waiting was not punishment, but process? There was once a chosen one who felt that same ache. They had prayed, fasted, and obeyed. Yet heaven seemed quiet. Days turned into months. Months into years. They began to believe maybe they misheard the promise. Maybe they were unworthy of it. But in truth, heaven was preparing the stage, adjusting the timing, ensuring that when the door opened, it wouldn't close again. That is how divine timing works. It preserves what impatience would destroy. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 37, verse 7. Be still before the Lord, and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their wicked ways. That verse doesn't just command waiting, it sanctifies it. It says strength is found not in action, but in endurance. In holding still when every instinct screams to run ahead. Waiting, in heaven's language, is warfare. It's choosing trust over panic, faith over fear, obedience over opportunity. You have walked through that warfare. You fought battles. No one saw battles against doubt, despair, and self-condemnation. Yet through it all, something inside you refused to break. That unbreakable thing is what God has been building all along. The waiting wasn't just about time passing. It was about transformation taking root. Think of molten gold being refined by fire. It looks painful, chaotic, even destructive, but in that heat, impurities rise and are removed. When the gold cools, it shines with a purity it never had before. That is what your waiting has done. The fire wasn't sent to burn you, it was sent to reveal you. And oh, how heaven values the one who waits. The angels see it, the quiet faith of a heart that trusts without proof. That kind of faith terrifies darkness, because it cannot be manipulated by circumstance. It's steady, it's sure, it's divine. Maybe you've questioned whether your delay means you missed your destiny. But destiny doesn't operate like a bus schedule. It's more like the sunrise. It comes precisely when the horizon is ready. You could not have forced it earlier if you tried. And now that it's time, nothing can stop it from rising. The wound of waiting leaves a mark. Yes, but that mark becomes testimony. One day, someone will look at you and say, "How did you stay faithful when nothing moved?" And you'll answer, "Because I learned to see movement even in stillness." That's what happens when you stop measuring progress by visible results and start recognizing it by spiritual maturity. The caterpillar doesn't panic inside the cocoon. The process feels tight, dark, and endless. But metamorphosis takes time. When the butterfly finally breaks through, no one sees the struggle it took to grow wings. They only see the beauty of what emerged. Your waiting season has been your cocoon, forming wings strong enough to carry the weight of your next chapter. You have been stretched, not stranded, pressed, not punished. Every unanswered prayer has been an invitation to deeper trust. And every day you kept going when it made no sense, heaven recorded it as faith. Now, as you stand between not yet and now, take a moment to look back. The person who began this waiting season isn't the same one standing here. You've gained wisdom that cannot be taught, patience that cannot be faked, peace that cannot be shaken. That's what divine delay produces. It transforms time into testimony. So don't despise the wound of waiting. It's the mark of those chosen to carry eternal things. Your timing wasn't off, it was holy. And when heaven finally moves, it does so in perfection. The promise doesn't just arrive, it unfolds, steady and sure, like dawn over mountains that once seemed immovable. You've endured the silence, and you're still standing. That's proof enough that heaven's clock is still running and that it's running right on time. So breathe. Chosen one, let the waiting turn from wound to witness. Every tear you've cried has watered the very ground your promise will rise from. What once felt empty is now sacred soil, carrying the roots of what heaven is about to reveal. And when the moment unfolds, you will understand it was never delay, only design. The slow rhythm of heaven was always working for you, not against you. You were never waiting for God. He was waiting with you. There was a time when you thought you were forgotten, when silence stretched so long it felt like heaven had misplaced your name. You looked at others stepping into open doors and wondered if your key had been lost. But the truth was simpler and holier. You were never forgotten, only hidden. Hiddenness is not neglect, it is protection. The world couldn't see you because God was still shaping you. A diamond isn't displayed while it's being cut. It's kept in the craftsman's hand, away from the noise, until every edge reflects light. That's what he was doing with you, cutting, polishing, preparing. The word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 45, verse 3, "I will give you hidden treasures, riches stored in secret places, so that you may know that I am the Lord, the God of Israel, who summons you by name." End of. That's what hidden seasons are, secret places where treasures are formed. You may not have seen results, but heaven saw refinement. Every quiet day was chiseling pride away, carving humility, engraving wisdom. When you emerge, you won't just shine, you'll illuminate others, Consider the story of the chosen one who once walked through obscurity. No applause, no spotlight, just long, silent obedience. But when the appointed hour came, doors that once ignored them could no longer resist their presence. Their name began to echo in rooms they'd never entered. That's how divine revelation works. It doesn't announce your arrival. It reveals your readiness. You might have mistaken hiddenness for abandonment. You might have thought being unseen meant being unwanted. But if God had unveiled you too soon, the weight of visibility could have crushed what was still tender. Hiddenness was His mercy disguised as silence. Imagine a seed buried beneath the soil. It's unseen, pressed, and forgotten by those walking above, but underground. A miracle unfolds. Roots form in darkness before branches reach the sun. That's been your story. You've grown downward before you ever grew upward. The world celebrates arrival, but heaven celebrates endurance. God trusted you enough to hide you. That's not rejection, it's selection. You've been kept apart so that when your moment comes, no one will question that it was divinely appointed. You have to know this. Being hidden didn't mean being unchosen. It meant being preserved. Heaven covered you while hell tried to find you. The silence that frustrated you was actually God's shelter, keeping your name out of reach from those who would have misused it. Now the winds are shifting. The same God who hid you is beginning to unveil you. What was private preparation is about to become public purpose. You're not emerging because you pushed your way forward. You're emerging because heaven is saying, now. And when you step out, you won't need to explain where you've been. The oil of your endurance will speak louder than any introduction. The world will see it, and they'll know you were never forgotten. You were chosen, concealed, and now revealed. So as you read this, feel the weight of heaven lifting from your shoulders. The time of concealment is giving way to calling. This unveiling won't come with noise or pride. It will come with peace. You'll move quietly, confidently, carrying the evidence of divine craftsmanship. Type, I am seen. M. Write it not as a comment to the world, but as a declaration to your own soul. When you type it, you're aligning with heaven's truth that God has not overlooked you. You were never out of sight. You were held in sacred shadow, prepared for the brilliance about to unfold. Your hiddenness was holy. And now, the light is coming for you, not to expose, but to exalt. So when you declare, I am seen, you're not begging for recognition, you're acknowledging revelation. It means you finally understand that visibility isn't proof of value, purpose is. To be seen by heaven has always meant more than being seen by people. It's the moment when the veil lifts and you realize every unseen year was an investment, not a loss. The pruning, the silence, the rejections, they weren't walls, they were wombs. What felt like confinement was actually formation. You were being made, not misplaced. Now, as heaven unveils you, your identity no longer depends on applause. The same God who refined you in shadows will sustain you in light. You will carry peace into visibility because you no longer need validation to breathe. That's the fruit of hiddenness. It breaks dependency on human approval. So, stand tall. The world will see your glow and wonder where you came from. Smile and let them ask. They don't need your story. Your stillness will tell it. You were hidden for glory, and now you shine with heaven's quiet confidence. You've heard it said that divine timing never fails. But only now are you beginning to understand what that truly means. The divine clock does not tick by seconds and minutes, it turns by surrender, by obedience, by readiness. Every time you yielded, every time you stayed faithful instead of fleeing, a hand on heaven's clock moved forward. There is no coincidence in your journey. The setbacks, the pauses, the detours, they were not errors in the script. They were commas in a sentence God Himself was still writing. The punctuation of delay was never the end. It was a breath between chapters. As the prophet wrote in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, "For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." And that verse isn't just poetic, it's architectural. It describes how heaven builds destiny with precision. The delay you feel on earth is not delay in heaven's mind. It's divine alignment, a process so exact that even a heartbeat out of place could shift the outcome. Consider the stars. They appear eternal, unchanging, but each one moves according to gravitational laws, so perfect that even a fraction's deviation could destroy galaxies. That's how God orders your life. The orbit looks slow, but it's flawless. You are one of those stars placed, not drifting. When you thought nothing was happening, heaven was recalibrating your steps. The doors that didn't open were never yours to enter. The ones that will open soon have been built specifically for you. Divine timing doesn't just coordinate events, it constructs environments. It ensures that when you arrive, the atmosphere, the people, the opportunities are all synchronized to your purpose. A chosen one once cried out in frustration, "Why must I always wait?" And heaven answered, "Because I am preparing not just your blessing, but your becoming." That response echoes through your own journey. The timing wasn't about withholding, it was about matching. Heaven's blessings require hearts strong enough to carry them. Think of an hourglass turned upside down. You see sand falling and think it's running out. But heaven says refinement in motion. Every grain is purpose measured precisely. Every second is strategy. When the final grain drops, it will not be by accident. It will be at the exact moment. Heaven whispers. Now, even creation testifies to this rhythm. The tide does not rush the moon. The seed does not scold the soil for being slow. Everything in creation waits on divine instruction. And still, it flourishes. Why then would you fear waiting when your Creator commands time itself? The perfection of His timing becomes most visible in hindsight. There are moments you once mourned that you now thank God for. The job you lost that made room for your calling. The relationship that ended so you could learn wholeness. The season of silence that birthed your voice. That's how heaven redeems the clock. It turns loss into language, pain into prophecy. You've seen it, how one small change in timing would have altered everything. If you had arrived earlier, your heart wouldn't have been ready. If you had stayed longer in certain places, you might have missed this unfolding now. That's how exact the divine schedule is, mercifully measured, painfully perfect. Sometimes, divine timing looks cruel at first. It allows you to walk through doors that close again, to meet people who only stay for a season, to taste opportunities that seem to vanish. But those moments aren't mockery, they're calibration. They fine-tune your discernment, teaching you to recognize the rhythm of the real from the rush of imitation. And as you grow into this awareness, Peace begins to replace panic. You stop asking, "When will it happen?" and start saying, "Whenever it happens, I'll be ready." That is the mark of maturity, trusting the clock without demanding its face. The divine clock never falters. It does not lose seconds. It never needs adjustment. It keeps perfect rhythm with the heartbeat of heaven. You are part of that pulse. And the moment you align your trust with it, the anxiety of delay dissolves into the serenity of faith. Look back for a moment. Really, look. Every twist, every pause, every heartbreak carried purpose. The proof is that you're still here, still unfolding, still guided. You haven't missed anything that was truly meant for you. Not one blessing has expired. Not one promise has been forgotten. You are walking in a divine symphony. Every note timed. Every rest intentional. What felt offbeat was only heaven changing tempo to match your growth. Soon, you'll hear the melody come together, and it will sound like peace. The clock of heaven never fails, and neither will you. There are moments when heaven aligns everything, your past pain, your hidden seasons, your silent prayers, and suddenly, you begin to see the pattern. What once felt random now reveals divine rhythm. You begin to understand that nothing was wasted. Every delay, every heartbreak, every quiet night has led you to this alignment of seasons. When heaven shifts time, the air changes. You feel it not just around you, but within you. Doors that refused to open begin to respond to your presence. Opportunities, long delayed, find their way back. You realize that divine timing isn't only about arrival, it's about readiness. God doesn't simply send blessings, He synchronizes hearts. The ancient words recorded in the book of Haggai, chapter 2, verse 9, "The glory of this present house will be greater than the glory of the former house, says the Lord Almighty. And in this place I will grant peace." And that peace is what you feel now, the deep assurance that you haven't missed your moment. Everything that once seemed scattered is coming together, perfectly aligned in God's calendar. Think of the seasons, how winter protects the roots that spring will awaken, how summer ripens what autumn will harvest. Heaven works the same way in you. What was buried in cold silence is beginning to bloom. The long preparation wasn't delay, it was cultivation. You've entered your appointed season, and the soil of your soul is ready for harvest. You might not see it yet, but heaven's orchestration has reached full harmony. The threads that once tangled are weaving into something beautiful. Even your mistakes are being rewritten into melody. That's what happens when divine alignment takes over. It transforms chaos into choreography. When you feel that harmony stirring in your spirit, take a small step to keep the rhythm alive. Like this message, share it, and subscribe, not out of routine, but as a way of saying, "I am part of this divine music." Each click is a heartbeat of faith, a ripple that carries light into someone else's waiting night. And if this space has become a quiet sanctuary for you, if the words here have helped you hear heaven more clearly, then consider something more. You can pour a little oil into the lamp. You can sow into the flame that keeps this light burning. That's what a donation truly is, not payment. But participation. It's like placing a candle beside another, so that together they glow brighter. It's choosing to keep warmth flowing for those who are still standing in the cold. Every gift, no matter how small, is a drop of oil that ensures the light never fades. Do it freely, joyfully, as an act of gratitude, not obligation. Give only if it feels like peace. Never pressure. The kingdom moves by love, not demand. When you give, you're not funding words. You're watering a garden that continues to bloom in hearts around the world. And if right now you cannot give, know this: you are still part of the flame. Your prayer, your presence, your faith, keep it alive. The greatest offering you can ever bring is your continued yes to God's timing. So take this moment. Feel the peace in your chest, the quiet certainty that you are aligned. If you choose, click like, share this message, subscribe, or give not to finish something, but to continue it, like a river returning to the sea. Your act of faith will always find its way back to blessing. You are standing in divine alignment. The seasons have shifted in your favor, and together with every share, every spark of generosity, every act of faith, we keep the light of heaven moving forward. And as you give light, light will find you. That is the mystery of divine exchange. Whatever you release in faith returns multiplied in peace. Just as rivers never run dry when they keep flowing, generosity keeps your spirit alive. You are not losing when you give. You are expanding your capacity to receive more of heaven's rhythm. In that rhythm, every act, whether a share, a prayer, or a seed, becomes music. Heaven hears it and responds. You are writing a song of faith with your actions, one that will echo far beyond this moment. The melody of obedience never fades. It keeps sounding in hearts you may never meet. So, walk on with quiet assurance. The alignment you feel now is real. The season has turned, and you have turned with it. Time is no longer your enemy. It has become your companion, keeping step with the divine pulse that beats within you. There are moments when what you called delay begins to reveal itself as divine defense. The rejection that once stung becomes a memory you now bless, because you see what it saved you from. What if God wasn't holding you back? He was holding you together. The truth is, every door that didn't open was a wall built by mercy. You prayed for opportunity, but heaven was protecting you from imitation blessings, things that looked good, but would have drained your soul. The delay you cursed was a shield you never recognized. According to what is written in the book of Nahum, chapter 1, verse 7, the Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. He knows those who take refuge in him. That verse is not theory, it's testimony. You've lived it. When people left you, when plans failed, when the ground shook beneath your faith, you were not abandoned. You were preserved in the refuge of his timing. Think back to the moments when it all fell apart. You cried, "Why, God?" only to realize later that the collapse was construction in disguise. Sometimes he must tear down what is unstable before he builds something unshakable. The pause wasn't punishment. It was protection from foundations that couldn't hold your purpose. There was once a chosen one who begged for a door to stay open. They pleaded with God to let them stay where comfort lived. But heaven said no. And at first it felt cruel. Years later, they saw what was behind that door: deception, distraction, disaster. The no that once broke their heart had saved their destiny. That's the kind of defense God builds around his chosen, not fences to trap, but walls to protect. His not yet is a fortress, not a refusal. You think you're waiting, but really, you're being guarded. Imagine a potter shaping clay on a spinning wheel. Every pause, every turn, every press of his hand feels disruptive to the clay, but each touch is control, not chaos. If he releases too soon, the vessel collapses. If he holds too long, the shape hardens without purpose. So he works with perfect rhythm, ensuring the final form can hold both oil and fire. You are that vessel, being perfected by pressure, and that's why rejection often feels like redirection. God doesn't remove people or paths out of cruelty. He edits your story for endurance. You were never meant to fit where you once forced yourself to stay. You are being refined for higher ground places where your light won't just survive but shine. It's easy to see divine defense only after the danger passes. But even now, as you face uncertainty, trust that protection is still active. The silence surrounding you isn't neglect, it's strategy. The shepherd never leads his sheep into shadows without reason. Sometimes, the safest path is the one that feels still. You've grown through this kind of stillness. You've learned to stop begging for movement and start thanking God for protection. That's maturity, when you stop measuring grace by gain and start seeing it in what was withheld. If you could see what heaven blocked on your behalf, you'd weep with gratitude. Every delay, every disappointment was a sword drawn for your defense. You've been carried under unseen wings, kept from battles that would have crushed your calling. So, breathe deeply. Feel the peace that comes when you realize you were never waiting alone. You were being shielded in divine timing. The protection that felt like pause was heaven's way of saying, not this way, not yet, not them. Your defense has always been divine. Your delay has always been deliberate. Type 333 in the comments, not as superstition, but as agreement. 3 is the number of completion, of divine fullness. It's your way of saying, I see it now. My delay was my defense. Let that number be your reminder that nothing withheld was wasted, and nothing lost was truly meant for you. You were guarded for greatness. You were preserved for purpose. Heaven was never late. It was loving. So when you type 333, don't see it as a code, see it as a covenant. You're acknowledging the unseen protection that shaped your path, the divine patience that kept you from premature exposure. It's more than a number, it's gratitude in motion. You are testifying that your story was never delayed by accident. Heaven's defense was not a wall to imprison you, but a gate, keeping harm away until you were ready. Everything withheld was replaced by wisdom. Every pause was purpose disguised as peace. Now you stand, protected yet free, no longer fearing delay, but discerning it. You've learned that what feels like stillness is often the sound of God building a shield around your destiny. There are seasons when pain feels endless, when you wonder if anything good could ever grow from what broke you. Yet every scar you carry has become a signature of strength. Pain was never meant to define you. It was meant to refine you. What you survived has shaped who you are becoming. The chosen one learns early that purpose always walks hand in hand with pain. The deeper your calling, the deeper the cut required to uncover it. You have walked through valleys others could not have endured. And though you doubted it at times, you were being perfected, not punished. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Romans, chapter 5, verses 3 and 4. We also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character. Hope. No, Those words are not just theology, they are the blueprint of your life. Every wound that bled became wisdom. Every disappointment became discipline. Pain was your teacher, and it taught you resilience, humility, and empathy, qualities that cannot be learned in comfort. There was once a chosen one who lost everything in a single season: their home, their friendships, even their confidence seemed to crumble. They walked through the ashes and whispered, "I can't do this anymore." But heaven whispered back, "You already are." That moment became their turning point, not because the pain ended, but because purpose began to emerge from it. You know that moment too, the day you decided to keep going, even when nothing made sense. That was when heaven took notice. Angels mark those moments, when faith stands on trembling knees, yet refuses to fall. Your survival was not weakness, it was worship. Pain carves the soul like a sculptor shapes stone. It chips away what doesn't belong, revealing the image of strength hidden within. Every tear you shed watered a seed of endurance. Every night you spent in silence was a classroom where heaven taught you how to hear in the dark. You've learned that blessings often wear the disguise of burdens, that broken things can still bear fruit. The branch that bends in the storm learns flexibility. The heart that breaks learns compassion. Pain made you gentle without making you weak. It stripped away pretense and left only truth, the truth that your worth was never tied to what you lost. Think of gold once again in the furnace. The heat doesn't create the value, it reveals it. The impurities rise, not to shame the gold, but to free it from what dulled its shine. In the same way, pain revealed the brilliance within you, the courage to rise, the capacity to forgive, the wisdom to wait. Sometimes, heaven allows pain not to test your faith, but to train it. A soldier doesn't learn strength on the battlefield, they learn it in training. When no one is watching, you've been through that training ground unseen, uncelebrated. But essentiel. You fought battles in silence that prepared you for victories in public. And though the scars remain, they no longer sting. They've become your credentials. When you speak now, your words carry weight because they come from lived truth. People can sense it. There's authority in a voice that has survived fire. That's what separates a chosen one from the crowd. Pain has made you authentic. It stripped away masks, exposed fears, and forced you into the raw honesty where God meets you most deeply. You no longer chase perfection, you chase peace. You no longer beg for easy paths, you ask for endurance. That's growth. That's transformation. If you look back, you'll see that every painful season left behind a gift. The betrayal taught discernment. The loss taught gratitude. The loneliness taught communion with heaven. Nothing was wasted. Not one tear. Not one heartbreak. Not one unanswered prayer. Each became a thread woven into your story of strength. You are now living proof that pain cannot destroy what God intends to use. You carry both the wound and the wisdom. The same fire that tried to consume you now illuminates your path. You've been through storms, but instead of drowning, you learned to walk on water. And perhaps that's the greatest miracle of all. Not that you escaped the fire, but that you walked through it and came out shining. Every pain refined you into purpose. Every ache became an altar where heaven met you. So, as you stand in this season, don't resent what broke you. Remember, it didn't end you. It built you. You are not a product of pain. You are the masterpiece born from it. There is a pattern you begin to notice as you mature in faith. The enemy rarely attacks your promise directly. He attacks your patience. He can't steal what God has decreed, so he tries to make you abandon it before it arrives. The tactic is subtle: whispers of doubt, weariness, and false urgency. If he can rush you, he can ruin you. That is why impatience is not merely a feeling, it's a weapon. The enemy knows that those who wait are dangerous. Waiting builds discernment, endurance, and spiritual accuracy. But impatience breeds confusion. It pushes you into places that look right but lead to dead ends. How many times have you felt that pressure? The anxious urge to make something happen, even when peace warned you to stay still. As written in the book of Proverbs, chapter 19, verse 2, "Desire without knowledge is not good. How much more will hasty feet miss the way?" Ended. That single line from ancient wisdom exposes a truth that still applies today. When you move before heaven says go, you step into places where grace has not yet arrived. Timing matters as much as obedience, because even a good thing done too soon can become a burden. There was once a chosen one who tried to force the door open. They had heard the promise and believed it, but waiting felt unbearable, so they acted early, thinking faith meant speed. But what followed was exhaustion, relationships strained, opportunities soured, peace vanished. Only when they stopped striving did God restore what rushing had broken. Their story became a mirror for all who try to outpace divine rhythm. You have felt that pull too. The temptation to chase what looks promising, even when your spirit hesitates. The pressure to prove that you're moving, progressing, achieving. But purpose is not performance. Real progress is often invisible, like roots deepening underground before the tree breaks through the surface. Impatience is the language of fear. It says, "If I don't act now, I'll miss my chance." But faith speaks differently. "If it's mine, it will wait for me." The one who learns to rest while the world rushes ahead becomes unstoppable, because their peace cannot be manipulated. Think of a river. It doesn't panic on its way to the sea. It flows with gravity, guided by unseen hands. Rocks may slow it, but they cannot stop it. So it is with you. You are flowing in a direction heaven has already designed. Every obstacle only refines your course. The current may twist and turn, but it never forgets where it's going. That's why the enemy fears your stillness. When you are calm, you can hear. When you are patient, you can see clearly. He wants to keep you distracted, constantly reacting, constantly moving without purpose. But heaven's strategy is rest. Stillness is the secret weapon of the chosen. It confuses the darkness because it shows trust. You've already seen what rushing produces: burnout, confusion, disappointment. You've also seen what waiting produces: clarity, strength, fulfillment. One is built on fear, the other on faith. Every time you've chosen to pause and listen instead of panic and leap, you've won a battle. Most people never notice, and it's not that you never act. You act when peace arrives. You move when heaven whispers, "Now," not when pressure shouts, "Hurry." That's how the truly chosen walk. They follow divine rhythm, not human rush. The world around you worships urgency. Everything screams, faster, bigger, now. But heaven whispers, steady, deep, eternal. You are not racing others, you are aligning with destiny. The only competition you face is against the version of you that would settle for less because waiting was hard. If you look back on your life, you'll see the pattern. Every time you forced something, it fractured. Every time you waited, it worked. That's evidence enough that divine timing never fails and demonic pressure never prevails. The enemy's greatest weapon was never destruction, it was distraction. But you are no longer deceived by the rush. You've learned to breathe in peace when panic knocks. You've learned that silence can be an answer, and stillness can be a strategy. You no longer chase now. You attract, because when you are aligned with heaven, what's meant for you comes effortlessly, without manipulation or fear. This is your proof of growth. You no longer confuse movement with progress. You have outgrown the need to prove yourself. You've learned that sometimes obedience looks like rest. So stay in rhythm. The world may move ahead in haste, but you walk with eternity. The pace of peace will always lead you farther than the speed of panic. Trust that what's meant for you will not require you to compromise who you are to keep it. You are no longer racing against time, you are walking with it. There comes a moment when everything you've carried in silence begins to shift. The weight that once pressed on your shoulders starts to feel lighter, and the purpose you've been guarding finally begins to take form. What was hidden in your heart starts echoing outward. This is the appointed hour of revelation, where what God planted privately begins to bloom publicly. You've spent seasons wondering if anyone could see what was inside you. Your potential, your vision, the calling that wouldn't let you sleep. You've whispered prayers into empty rooms and wondered if heaven was still listening. But now, the silence is breaking. Not with noise, but with movement. Heaven doesn't announce change with thunder. It releases it through quiet transformation. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 33, verse 3. Call to me, and I will answer you, and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. That verse isn't only an invitation, it's a promise. When you've called out in your lonely hours, heaven has been taking note. What you thought was stillness was preparation for unveiling. You are about to witness what happens when divine timing meets divine revelation. There was a chosen one who spent years building in obscurity. Their ideas were laughed at, their words ignored, their efforts unseen. Yet every time they wanted to quit, something inside said, "Keep going." And when the moment came, suddenly the very same people who overlooked them began to ask, "Where have you been?" But the truth was, they had been here all along, quietly faithful, waiting for God's now. This is your now. The shift has already started. Not around you, but within you. Revelation isn't just about visibility, it's about clarity. God isn't only revealing you to the world, He's revealing you to yourself. The doubts are dissolving, the confusion is clearing, and your spirit is finally seeing what heaven has seen all along. You are being unveiled, and it's happening through alignment. People are beginning to notice what you carry, not because you're louder, but because your light has grown undeniable. It's not pride that makes you stand tall now, it's purpose. What once felt like insignificance now feels like stewardship. You understand the weight of what you hold, and you honor it. Revelation doesn't need a stage, it needs surrender. When you stopped demanding recognition and started serving with quiet faith, heaven said, "Now I can trust you." That trust is what opens doors. Human effort never could. The moment of unveiling is not about fame, it's about function. You are stepping into spaces where your presence becomes an answer to prayers you didn't even know others were praying. What God has placed inside you will meet needs you can't yet see. You are part of a greater plan, one that requires humility as much as courage. Think of a sunrise. It doesn't shout to announce its arrival. It simply rises, and darkness can no longer remain. That's you now. You are rising not to compete, but to complete what heaven started in you. Every tear, every test, every night of silence, it all converges into this moment. The world may see it as sudden, but heaven knows it's been unfolding for years. You've been ripening in divine time, and this revelation is the fruit of your patience. So, as you read these words, don't shrink back. This is not the time to hide again. It's time to stand with peace, not pride, and let the light do what it was created to do: shine. Type light revealed. 1. When you write it, you're not trying to impress anyone, you're declaring what heaven has already done. Light revealed means you're stepping out of hiding and allowing your divine purpose to be seen. It's not about exposure, it's about expression. You're saying, "The light within me is no longer waiting, it's walking." Your revealing is not a performance, it's a prophecy fulfilled. What was whispered in secret will now echo across the open sky. You are the living proof that waiting in faith always ends in revelation. So when you declare, "Light revealed," you are speaking alignment into existence. You're telling your own soul that it's safe to be seen, safe to shine, safe to carry what heaven has entrusted to you. This declaration seals the shift. You are no longer hidden. You are positioned. It's more than a phrase. It's a release. Every shadow you once feared now becomes the backdrop that makes your light unmistakable. Revelation isn't about visibility, it's about purpose, stepping into form. When you speak those words, you're not asking for attention, you're affirming readiness. Heaven has been waiting for this moment of your agreement. The light has always been there. Now it simply stands uncovered. This is your unveiling quiet. Radiant. Undeniable. Divine synchronicity is one of heaven's most mysterious gifts. It's that moment when everything pain, patience, people suddenly aligns in perfect rhythm. You realize the steps you thought were random were actually part of a choreography only heaven could compose. Every thread of your story, once tangled and confusing, begins to weave into a masterpiece of timing. You look back and see it. The places you stumbled were where strength was being born. The closed doors were redirections, not rejections. Even the seasons of silence were divine rehearsals for this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing, has been wasted. The Apostle Paul wrote in his letter to the Corinthians, the first letter, chapter 2, verse 9, "No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love Him." That verse feels alive in you now. You're standing at the edge of what was once unimaginable. What felt like delay was actually divine design, a slow weaving of events until they formed harmony. The people, the lessons, even the losses were notes in a greater symphony. Think of your life as a grand tapestry. You've only seen the underside for years, all knots and loose threads. But now, heaven has turned it over, revealing a pattern that makes sense. Every color, every thread, Every pause had a purpose. And suddenly, what was painful becomes beautiful, because it fits. When heaven brings things into alignment, the effect is undeniable. Doors open without forcing. Conversations happen that you couldn't have orchestrated. You find yourself at the right place at the right time. Not because you planned it, but because grace placed you there. This is the flow of divine synchronicity, the moment when your obedience meets God's orchestration. In that flow, something sacred happens. You begin to trust more deeply. You stop wrestling with time, and instead, you dance with it. You learn that your story is not late, it's layered. Like rain falling exactly when the soil is ready. Everything arrives right when it can bear fruit. And as you breathe this truth in, remember, you're not just a receiver of light. You're a carrier of it. Messages like these, spaces like this, exist because souls like yours keep the flame alive. Every time you like, share, or subscribe, you are not feeding an algorithm, you are feeding a mission. When you click that heart or share that link, imagine it as releasing a ripple into still water. That ripple travels farther than you can see, reaching hearts still trapped in delay, reminding them that divine timing is real. What feels like a small act to you may be the very message that keeps someone else from giving up tonight. And if this space has ever spoken to your soul, if it has carried you through a silent season or reminded you that heaven's clock never fails, then know this: you can help keep this light burning. Giving is not obligation, it's participation. It's like adding another log to a sacred fire that warms weary hearts. It's like dropping a seed into fertile soil, knowing it will grow into something eternal. Every gift, whether a share, a subscription, or a donation, keeps the light traveling through unseen paths, touching souls you may never meet. So, if your spirit stirs, consider sowing into the light, not because you owe it, but because you value what it creates: hope, healing, revelation. Let your giving be like rainfall, gentle, natural, and life-giving. Whether it's a coin, a comment, or a prayer, heaven multiplies what's offered with sincerity. And if all you can offer now is presence, that's enough. Your listening heart, your quiet faith, your time here, they matter. You are part of this flow, and the current would not be the same without you. This space was built to remind you that you were never late, and to remind others through you. When you engage, when you support, when you share, you're extending that reminder beyond yourself. You become part of the chain of divine synchronicity, a living echo of grace. So, take a moment. Let gratitude fill you. If you choose, like, share, subscribe, or donate, not because you must, but because you may. Do it as a whisper of agreement, a quiet yes to the work heaven is doing here. You're not funding content, you're fueling connection, keeping alive a sacred conversation between earth and eternity. You are the proof that divine synchronicity exists. You're living in it right now. Every step, every choice, every breath has led here exactly as it was meant to. And now that you see it, keep that light flowing forward, freely and beautifully. There comes a time when you begin to recognize heaven's rhythm, not as mystery, but as melody. You start sensing it in the smallest things, in how the day unfolds, in how people cross your path, in how peace interrupts panic. This is what it means to live under divine timing, to discern the rhythm of heaven and walk in step with it. At first, it feels strange, even uncomfortable. You've been taught to measure progress by motion, by doing, by achieving. But heaven's rhythm is quieter. It moves like breath, not like noise. It doesn't push, it pulls. It doesn't demand, it invites. It is not about speed, it is about synchronization. According to what is revealed in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 4, let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. That verse describes the hidden wisdom of divine timing. Perseverance isn't just endurance, it's the steady heartbeat of heaven's clock. It's the grace to remain in rhythm, even when your emotions beg you to rush ahead. Pause. Each delay, each waiting moment is heaven counting out the beat, ensuring you are ready for the next measure. There was once a chosen one who struggled with this rhythm. They wanted results, not rest. They wanted answers, not silence. But as they grew, they began to hear God's timing in everything, in the way a door would close gently instead of slamming, in the way a detour revealed new landscapes they never would have seen. One day, they realized that what once felt like resistance was actually guidance. That's when peace replaced pressure. You've reached that same threshold. You're learning that obedience isn't about reaction, it's about rhythm. The steps of the righteous are not frantic, they are ordered. Divine rhythm doesn't mean you'll always know what's next. It means you'll always know when to move. The when is as holy as the what. End of 4. Think of a skilled dancer following a partner. They don't force the movement. They listen, feel, and flow. That's what it's like walking with heaven. The rhythm leads, and you follow, not out of control, but out of trust. You don't need to anticipate the next step. You only need to stay attuned to the one who guides you. The rhythm of heaven is not always loud. Sometimes it's hidden in stillness, like the slow tide washing over sand. You only notice it when you stop rushing long enough to feel its pull. And once you do, you begin to realize that even in stillness, movement is happening. God's rhythm doesn't need your hurry, it needs your harmony. As you grow in this awareness, you'll begin to see patterns that others miss. You'll sense when to speak and when to stay silent, when to pursue and when to pause. You'll make decisions not from panic, but from peace. That's discernment, not driven by circumstance, but guided by the Spirit's rhythm within you. There's a strange freedom that comes with this. The fear of missing out fades. The anxiety of what if dissolves. You stop comparing your pace to others because you finally understand heaven's rhythm is unique for every soul. What looks like delay for one may be acceleration for another. Your rhythm is your own divine fingerprint. It's like the heartbeat of an orchestra. Every instrument has a part to play, but all follow the same conductor. Some play faster, some slower, but all serve one melody. You are part of that orchestra, and your note matters. Without it, the symphony would sound incomplete. And when you truly begin to walk in rhythm, something sacred happens. Peace becomes your compass. Even in chaos, you'll feel it a steady pulse inside, reminding you that you're still aligned. That inner peace isn't weakness. It's evidence that heaven's rhythm has rooted itself in you. There will still be days when the rhythm feels faint, when you'll question if you've fallen out of sync. But even then, grace remains your metronome, gently guiding you back into alignment. Heaven doesn't scold, it redirects. You are learning to move with purpose, not panic. To respond with faith, not fear. That's the rhythm of divine timing. It's not about doing more, it's about becoming more aware. The more you trust that rhythm, the more effortless your steps become. You're no longer chasing moments, you're embodying them. You're walking in cadence with eternity itself. That is the mark of someone who knows the rhythm of heaven and carries it into every heartbeat of life. There is a shift that happens when you stop living by minutes and start living by moments. You begin to recognize divine timing not just as something you wait for, but as something you walk in. These are your kairos moments, those divine intersections where heaven touches earth. And ordinary days become sacred encounters. Kairos is not about the ticking of the clock, it's about alignment of the soul. It's when preparation meets purpose. When obedience meets opportunity, it's when everything inside you whispers, "This is it. This is the moment. Heaven wrote for me." End of T. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 2 and 3, "When evening comes, you say, 'It will be fair weather, for the sky is red.' And in the morning, 'Today it will be stormy, for the sky is red and overcast.' You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times." End of T. Those words are not a rebuke, they are a reminder. Heaven invites you to discern divine timing as clearly as you read the weather, to sense when to move, when to pause, and when to act with faith. There was once a chosen one who mistook ordinary for insignificant. They walked through days that felt repetitive, unaware that heaven was building a moment of breakthrough inside the mundane. One day, everything changed. An unexpected opportunity appeared, and they realized every ordinary day had been rehearsal for that single kairos moment. It didn't come early. It didn't come late. It came when their character could carry it. That's how divine timing works. It's not random, it's relational. Kairos moments find those who are faithful in the quiet. They're drawn to consistency, not convenience. They come when your heart beats in sync with heaven's rhythm. When your readiness meets God's revelation. Right now, you are standing in such a moment. The air feels different, not rushed, but ripe. Heaven has arranged pieces you didn't even know were connected. What you lost has found its purpose. What you planted in tears is beginning to bloom in peace. You're walking into timing that doesn't just bless you, it restores you. But kairos moments require awareness. They slip by those distracted by hurry or fear. That's why the Spirit teaches stillness, so you can feel the divine nudge when it comes. You don't have to chase opportunity, you only have to recognize it. Imagine a sailboat waiting for the wind. It doesn't create the wind, it positions itself to catch it. That's what discernment looks like, raising your spiritual sails and letting heaven's breath carry you forward. The wind is already blowing. Your only task is to catch it. You've learned so much on this journey. How to wait, how to trust, how to listen. Now you're learning how to respond. Not every open door is yours, but the one that bears peace always is. Peace is heaven's signature on divine timing. This kairos moment might not come with noise. It might appear small, a conversation, a message, a shift in your spirit, but it carries eternal weight. Heaven wraps big breakthroughs in humble beginnings. Don't despise what looks small. It's the seed of something timeless. If your spirit feels stirred right now, that's not emotion, it's recognition. Something within you knows this message isn't coincidence, it's confirmation. You're being reminded that you are not behind schedule, you're on sacred time. Type 7,777 in the comments. This number, symbolizing divine completion and the fullness of grace, is your personal declaration that you are stepping into Kairos. You're saying, I recognize my divine moment. I'm ready to move in rhythm with heaven. It's not superstition, it's synchronization. A simple act that marks spiritual awareness. When you write it, feel the peace of alignment settle over you. You are not late. You are not early. You are standing in the precise second heaven has prepared for you. What you're about to walk into will confirm what this season has taught you. Every delay was direction. Every silence was shaping. And every waiting moment was worth it. This is your appointed Kairos. And you've arrived right on time. When you type 7,777, you're not calling for luck, you're calling for alignment. You're declaring that your steps are no longer guided by fear or frustration, but by divine order. It's a symbol of agreement between your spirit and heaven's timing, a way of saying, I'm no longer chasing, I'm receiving. I know, this act is your seal of recognition. It's like placing a stone at the riverbank to remember where the crossing happened. You'll look back and know this was the moment you stepped fully into your divine rhythm, your Kairos flow. Acceleration without anxiety. That's the season you are stepping into now. You're moving faster, but it doesn't feel frantic. The same places that once resisted you are now opening with ease. Yet your spirit remains calm. This is what it looks like when grace accelerates you. It's movement without fear, forward motion, without strain. There was a time when speed felt like survival. You pushed, hustled, and chased, believing that faster meant better. But divine acceleration is different. It's not driven by pressure, it's powered by peace. It doesn't leave you breathless, it leaves you balanced. When heaven increases your pace, it also enlarges your capacity. You're not running harder, you're running lighter. The Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 22, the least of you will become 1,000, the smallest, a mighty nation. I am the Lord. In its time, I will do this swiftly. That verse isn't poetic exaggeration, it's prophetic pattern. When the appointed time arrives, God does in moments what years of effort couldn't accomplish. His acceleration is not chaos, it's compression. Time itself bends to favor His will. You can feel that bend in your life right now. The things that once took forever are suddenly happening with flow. Opportunities are aligning. Resources are appearing. People are showing up. And yet, your heart feels unshaken. That's the mark of holy speed. Acceleration without anxiety happens when trust replaces striving. When you finally stop forcing doors and start walking through the ones that open by grace, you begin to understand that divine pace isn't about control, it's about surrender. You no longer chase outcomes, you partner with direction. Think of a river in flood season. The current moves swiftly, yet the fish inside it are not afraid. They move with the flow, not against it. That's you now moving with heaven's current, not fighting it. You're learning to navigate acceleration with peace instead of panic. You see, heaven's acceleration doesn't just push you forward, It pulls you higher. It's not merely advancement, it's elevation. The Spirit lifts you above the noise, above comparison, above chaos. From that height, you see what you couldn't before. Acceleration without preparation is disaster. But acceleration after refining is destiny. You have been refined. Now you are ready. There was once a chosen one who tried to rush their season. They wanted results now. Recognition now. Fruit without root. They forced their way forward, only to find emptiness waiting when they finally surrendered. When they said, "God, I'll move when you move." Acceleration returned, but this time it was effortless. Within weeks, doors opened that had been shut for years. Grace does what grind never could. That is how heaven operates. It waits until your spirit is rested enough to carry the speed of purpose. God will never accelerate you into anxiety. He accelerates you into awareness. The pace of grace matches the strength of your trust. You can tell divine speed from worldly rush by how it feels. Rush drains, grace refuels. Rush demands, grace invites. Rush scatters your focus, grace gathers it. When heaven moves, it feels like breathing after holding your breath for too long. There's relief in it, not pressure. You are in that relief now. The gears of your destiny are turning faster, but they're smooth. You don't have to question if you can keep up. You were made for this moment. Every year of waiting was building stamina for this acceleration. And remember, acceleration doesn't mean skipping the process. It means the process has matured. Seeds don't stay underground forever. When the roots are deep enough, growth happens quickly. The sprout doesn't apologize for bursting through the soil. It simply rises because it's time. That's your life, right now. Roots ready, light waiting, and grace commanding. Grow. Don't fear the speed. You've earned it through stillness. You can handle the momentum because your foundation is unshakable. You no longer depend on circumstances for peace. You carry peace into every circumstance. That's how acceleration stays holy. So move forward gently, confidently, not running from, but running with. You are no longer the one forcing time. You are the one favored by it. Divine acceleration doesn't ask, "Are you fast enough?" It declares, "You're finally free enough." Now, the pace of your life has changed, but your posture remains steady. You are walking faster now, but you are still walking in faith. The path is clear, the rhythm divine, and the peace unbroken. You are accelerating, but you are not anxious. You are simply aligned. There comes a sacred moment when what once felt like detour begins to look like design. Every not yet, every disappointment, every closed path starts to reveal its hidden purpose. What you once labeled as delay now stands before you as destiny. You begin to see how heaven uses even missteps to guide your feet into perfect alignment. At first, it's difficult to see it that way. When doors close, pain feels louder than purpose. When prayers go unanswered, silence feels heavier than faith. But over time, you learn that heaven never wastes pain, and divine timing never misfires. The things you thought were holding you back were actually steering you toward fulfillment. The ancient words recorded in the book of Genesis, chapter 50, verse 20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." This verse captures the mystery of redemption, that God doesn't just repair, He repurposes. The harm meant to break you becomes material for your breakthrough. The betrayal that bruised you becomes the birthplace of your blessing. Destiny, you discover, is not a straight line. It's a mosaic made from shattered moments that only heaven can arrange into beauty. There was once a chosen one who wept over every no. They thought each closed chapter was failure. But when they looked back years later, they realized that every redirection had been divine mercy in disguise. The path that looked lost was simply being rerouted toward promise. What they thought was delay was actually protection from premature arrival. You know that feeling too, the ache of wondering why certain things didn't work out. The relationships that ended, the plans that dissolved, the dreams that felt postponed. But now, you're starting to recognize the thread running through them all. God's no was never rejection. It was redirection towards something that required a stronger visa, you. Destiny rarely looks logical while it's unfolding. It feels messy, unpredictable, even unfair. Yet when you step back and see the full picture, it's breathtaking. What you once called confusion becomes coordination. What felt like loss becomes leverage. Every delay was heaven pulling you closer to what you were truly meant to hold. Think of a tapestry again. From underneath, its chaotic threads crossing, colors clashing. No clear form. But turn it over, and suddenly the image is perfect. That's what happens when destiny reveals itself. The pain you endured becomes the outline of purpose. Every tangled moment fits exactly where it should. The detours, the waiting, the heartbreaks, they were not punishments. They were sacred reroutings. God didn't need your life to be straight. He needed it to be strong. Straight paths are easy to walk, but it's the winding ones that build endurance and faith. You have walked that winding road, and because of it, you've learned how to trust without proof. Every story heaven writes includes tension, because tension builds strength. The bow must bend before the arrow can fly. Your delays were those bends, those sacred stretches of preparation. Each one was positioning you to be launched into something far greater than what you once prayed for. Even now, as you think back, certain moments begin to make sense. The friendships that faded made space for divine connections. The closed opportunities protected you from counterfeit promises. The timing you hated became the timeline that matured you. You see now, your detour was never detour at all. It was direction hidden in disguise. Destiny's path is rarely comfortable, but it is always correct. You couldn't have arrived earlier because your strength wasn't yet complete. You couldn't have skipped the waiting because wisdom grows slowly. And you couldn't have avoided the pain because purpose needs depth to thrive. This revelation changes how you see everything. You no longer resent delay, you revere it. You no longer fear detours, you follow them. You no longer question why, you begin to thank God for how. Every wrong turn has been rewritten into right timing. And so, standing here now, you can finally breathe. The tension eases, not because life is perfect, but because your perspective is. You understand now that destiny has been guiding you all along, sometimes through storms, sometimes through silence, always through grace. You have not been wandering, you've been weaving. Every step, every weight, every wound was part of your divine design. What was once delay is now destiny, and destiny, in the hands of heaven, never misses its moment. So let peace settle where questions once lived. The road behind you wasn't crooked, it was crafted. Every turn brought you closer to purpose, and every delay carried you toward divine fulfillment. Heaven crowns those who waited well. You may not have realized it, but your endurance has been seen, recorded, and remembered. Every moment you kept faith alive, while hope felt distant, has been stored like jewels in heaven's treasury. And now, as you stand in this new season, you can sense it. Something luminous rests upon you. This is not reward for performance, it's recognition of perseverance. You've walked through dark valleys and found light anyway. You've held on when others let go. You've chosen grace instead of bitterness. That's what heaven crowns, not perfection, but faithfulness. You are among those rare ones who didn't quit when quitting made sense. The apostle reminds us in his first letter to Timothy, chapter 6, verse 12, "Fight the good fight of the faith. Take hold of the eternal life to which you were called." That verse speaks not of battle in blood, but of perseverance in belief. To take hold of life is to keep faith through every delay, to fight weariness with worship, to finish strong. And you, yes, you have fought well. The chosen one learns that crowns are not placed on hurried heads. They are placed on those who have learned to bow. The bowed soul becomes the throne upon which grace rests. You've bowed in surrender, and heaven has marked that posture as worthy. Now, as this season unfolds, the crown becomes not a decoration, but a calling. It isn't for pride, it's for purpose. You've been crowned not to boast, but to bless. Your journey becomes light for those still walking in shadow. The peace you carry becomes proof that divine timing works. Think of the crown not as metal, but as light circling you like sunrise. It doesn't weigh you down, it lifts your gaze. It's not earned, it's entrusted. When heaven crowns you, it doesn't demand applause, it gives you authority to speak peace where chaos once ruled. And as you feel that light settling upon you, remember this message, this voice. This space exists because hearts like yours have helped keep the flame alive. Each one who reads, listens, or prays here adds another glimmer to that crown of shared purpose. Together, we are building something eternal, a living cathedral of words, faith, and compassion. When you like, share, or leave a comment, it isn't transaction, it's testimony. It's a ripple of gratitude, a way of saying, this light found me, and I want it to find another. Each gesture becomes like adding another candle in this great cathedral. Their glow touches unseen hearts. When you subscribe, it's like stepping closer to the altar, choosing to stay near the flame so it can keep reshaping your days. You are not subscribing to content. You're committing to consistency with light. And for those who feel led, there's an even deeper gesture, the sacred act of giving. Donating isn't a demand, it's devotion. It's the gentle act of pouring oil into the lamp that burns here, ensuring it never goes out. Every offering, small or large, is another drop of light, a way of saying, keep shining, keep reaching. Amen. Let your giving, your engagement, your words be like rainfall, soft, sincere, and life-giving. You're not pressured, you're participating in purpose. And if you cannot give right now, your faith is already a gift. Heaven counts the quiet reader and the unseen prayer equally precious. So pause for a moment. Let gratitude arise like incense. If peace leads you, like, share, comment, subscribe, or give, not to complete something, but to continue it. It's the rhythm of generosity, the poetry of purpose, the echo of eternity moving through willing hearts. You wear the crown now, not of conquest, but of completion. It glows quietly above your story, proof that you waited, trusted, and believed when it was hardest to do so. Heaven is smiling. The season of fulfillment has come, and you steady, shining, and chosen stand as living evidence that faith's reward is peace. So when you lift your hands in quiet thanks, you know that the crown isn't a symbol of superiority, it's a seal of surrender. It tells the world that you've learned to trust the rhythm of heaven even when you couldn't see the pattern. Your light now carries weight. Every act of faith, every whisper of kindness, every offering of peace adds another spark to that crown of divine endurance. You are proof that grace rewards perseverance in ways no earthly prize could measure. So walk gently, crowned in calm. You fought well, waited well, and now shine as one who wears both humility and victory in perfect balance. There is a peace that comes only after the storm, not the peace of escape, but the peace of understanding. It arrives quietly, like morning mist rising after rainfall. You don't chase it, it finds you. And when it does, you realize that everything, even the chaos, was working for your restoration. This is the rhythm of your rebirth. You've been through fire and found faith on the other side. You've been through silence and discovered the voice of God in stillness. The noise has faded now, and what remains is clarity, a deep knowing that you are exactly where you're meant to be. The pieces of your life have stopped clashing, they're composing harmony. The ancient promise written in the book of Hosea, chapter 6, verse 1, "Come, let us return to the Lord, for he has torn us, that he may heal us. He will bind us up." That verse captures the rhythm of rebirth perfectly, breaking and binding, wounding and healing, losing and finding. Each contrast becomes a step in the sacred dance of transformation. You are no longer who you were, yet everything true about you remains. The pain stripped away what was temporary, the process revealed what was eternal. There was once a chosen one who thought their story had ended. Life had scattered them like ashes in the wind. Yet in that scattering, new life began. What looked like ruin was really replanting. The ashes carried seeds, and in time, a forest grew from what was burned. That's how heaven restores it, multiplies what was lost. You are walking through that same renewal now. The heaviness you once carried has been replaced with quiet strength. You no longer fear what's next, because you've seen what survival looks like. You've learned that faith doesn't always shout, sometimes it just breathes. Rebirth doesn't happen in one sudden moment. It unfolds slowly, like dawn creeping over a mountain. You don't notice it at first. Then, suddenly, light is everywhere. The darkness hasn't disappeared, it has simply lost its power. That's what peace feels like after rebirth, not perfection, but perspective. You begin to see that even your weaknesses have purpose. Every scar has become a line of wisdom written on your skin. The things that once embarrassed you are now evidence of endurance. The places that broke you are now altars of gratitude. Heaven never wastes pain. It repurposes it into beauty that others can see and find hope in. In this rhythm of rebirth, you've learned to move differently. You don't rush to fix everything anymore. You pause. You listen. You let God unfold what needs to be healed in its own time. You've become fluent in the language of patience, fluent in the rhythm of restoration. Think of yourself as a tree that's been through every season, storm-tossed, leafless, scorched, and yet, each spring, it returns greener than before. That's you now. The roots of your faith run deep, drawing from wells that suffering could not dry. What once looked fragile now feels unbreakable. The rhythm of rebirth doesn't erase your past, it reinterprets it. You begin to understand that the breaking was never meant to destroy it, was meant to redefine. The pieces that fell apart were never meant to last. The ones that remained are unshakable. There's a softness to you now. But it's not weakness, it's wisdom wearing gentleness as armor. You move with compassion because you know what it's like to be crushed. You speak with care because you remember how silence felt. You shine not because life is easy, but because light is now your nature. And that's the beauty of divine rebirth. You don't have to try to prove you've changed. You simply live, and transformation speaks for itself. Your peace becomes your proof. Your calm becomes your crown. As you walk forward, you'll notice the rhythm of heaven within you, steady, strong, graceful. You've learned that life isn't about avoiding the breaking, but about trusting the rebuilding. You've stopped running from what hurts and started dancing with what heals. The rhythm of your rebirth plays softly now, a melody composed of every prayer, every tear, every triumph. You move in tune with it, knowing that what's ahead is not replacement, but resurrection. You are not starting over, you are continuing, evolved and illuminated. And this time, the rhythm is no longer around you, it's within you. You walk lighter now, not because the road changed, but because you did. What once broke you now blesses you, and every heartbeat echoes heaven's quiet rhythm, reborn, restored, and radiant, exactly on time. That's the revelation that now settles over your soul like sunlight after long rain. You see it clearly. You were never behind, never forgotten, never out of rhythm. Every pause was purpose. Every setback, a setup. Every silence, a sacred signal that heaven was still at work. The realization doesn't come with noise or fanfare. It arrives quietly, almost shyly, as if it had been waiting for your stillness to whisper, "You were always on time." You remember how it felt to doubt that truth, the years that seemed wasted, the prayers unanswered, the dreams deferred. You used to watch others run ahead and wonder why you were standing still. But now, looking back, you can see it, all of it woven into divine order. The timing was never wrong. You just couldn't see the whole clock. According to the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 35 and 36, "So do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded." You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. Those words breathe life into your journey. They remind you that the promise was never denied. It was deferred until you were ready to receive it without losing yourself. The waiting refined your confidence, stripped away fear, and trained your faith to see beyond frustration. There was once a chosen one who felt perpetually late. They thought destiny had passed them by. But when heaven's moment came, it all made sense. The years of preparation had not been delay, but design. The weight they carried became the strength they now stood on. Their testimony became time itself redeemed. You share that story. You are that story. What a holy irony that divine timing always feels late until it happens, and then it feels perfect. When heaven moves, it doesn't just answer your prayer, it redefines your perspective. The once painful pauses become precious, because now you understand what they built within you: trust that doesn't waver, peace that doesn't break, and gratitude that doesn't fade. Think of your journey as a symphony. For years, you heard only single notes, discordant, unfinished. But the conductor was never absent. He was waiting for the right moment to bring in the strings, the brass, the rise. And now, as you listen, you realize the pauses were part of the music. Without them, there would have been no beauty, no balance, no breath. You no longer rush to the next thing. You've learned the holiness of enough. You've discovered that arrival isn't a place, it's a posture. To live on time is not to hurry toward tomorrow, but to honor the grace of this moment. You are finally breathing in sync with eternity. And it feels like rest. Your spirit no longer fights the flow. You've stopped trying to manipulate timing. And instead, you marvel at it. Every memory that once carried regret now glows with meaning. You see how divine alignment turned every delay into depth, every detour into direction. You were never outside of time, you were inside of timing. Even the waiting years have become sacred now. You don't resent them anymore. They were your classroom, your cocoon, your altar. They taught you how to listen, how to release, how to remain. You've grown so quietly that you didn't notice the transformation until it began to reflect in your peace. There's a freedom in realizing you have nothing to chase. The clock no longer feels like a threat. It feels like a friend. Each second is saturated with divine rhythm. And you walk through time like one who belongs there. Anxiety fades, because you finally understand nothing that is meant for you can miss you when you walk in obedience. The final gift of divine timing is not acceleration, it's assurance. You know now that even when time feels silent, it's never standing still. Heaven's hands are always shaping, aligning, preparing. Your story has never been random. It's been rhythmic, unfolding exactly as written in eternity's script. So you rest. You breathe. You smile at the clock that once intimidated you. It no longer counts down. It counts miracles. What once ticked like pressure now hums like praise. You are not behind. You are beautifully, perfectly, divinely on time. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it, the faint but certain rhythm of heaven's heartbeat inside your own. It says, over and over, with every pulse of grace, right here, right now, exactly on time. You close your eyes and exhale, feeling eternity, breathing with you. The rush is gone, the striving silenced. In this stillness, heaven smiles and time itself bows, whispering, you made it, and now. The message completes its circle, 17 sections. One heartbeat. You were never late. You arrived exactly on time. Every word spoken. Every moment, read. Every pause between the lines was a thread in heaven's tapestry. You've walked through fire and still glowed. You've waited and discovered that waiting was the holy ground of becoming. This is not an ending. It's an awakening. You stand at the edge of what's next, not as a seeker anymore, but as one who carries light. The time you thought you lost was simply time that loved you enough to prepare you. Now, all that remains is peace. And if this message has found you, touched you, or helped you breathe again, then let that gratitude flow forward. When you like, share, or leave a comment. It's not obligation, it's continuation. It's a way of saying, this light reached me, and I will let it travel further. Each simple act becomes like releasing a small bird of light into the air, carrying comfort to hearts you'll never meet. When you subscribe, it isn't just to follow, it's to stay close to the river of calm that flows here. The current that always remembers your name. You're not joining a list, you're stepping into rhythm with peace itself. And if your heart ever stirs to do more, let giving be your quiet thank you, not payment, but partnership. Think of it as pouring oil into a lamp or adding a candle to the cathedral of words. Each gift, however small, keeps the flame steady, glowing for those still wandering in the dark. Suppose, breathe, smile. If your spirit leads, engage, support, share gently, freely, beautifully. You are proof that divine timing exists. You're not late. You're luminous. You're exactly on time, and the world is brighter because you arrived.